All right, perfect. So we are live. Today we're going to be talking about creating professional looking content and marketing with Callum Edwards, who I've got here with me. And he is the founder of the fitness brand specialists, GraphFit. He's actually helped me and his team has helped me with some of my own graphics and content. So I'm really excited to be able to bring him here today and have him talk about some really cool things when it comes to content. So what we're going to be sharing is why professional content really matters if you're trying to build an online business, how to create content that's going to stand out online, and then some steps to crafting a powerful brand visually with your content. So if you're looking to generate more leads, get online clients and attract higher paying customers, then you'll want to stick with us for the next 30 minutes and tune in to this live training today. If you're here, just let us know down in the comments. Like I said, these guys really know their stuff. They are experts in the space and they do a lot of things. Okay. So not just social media graphics, but logo and brand development, social graphics, Canva templates, done for you guides, bundles, photography, videography, video editing, website and landing page design, automation, Google Sheets, and probably a lot of other things that we don't have enough time to cover because there's so much great stuff and work that these guys do. And they've got a big team of professionals. And so I'm super excited to have Colin here with me. He's going to be diving into some stuff in just 1 second, but I'm curious myself, Callum, how did GraphFit come about? How did you start this company and why did you start this company?
Um, God, well, thanks for having me. First of all, we got there in the end, but it's to be honest, it all came out of just passion, really. And then it can sound cliche because every I guess founder or whatever will always say I'm passionate for it and stuff, but it literally just came out of something that I wanted to do on this. I've always sort of built websites on the side, going back years and years and years, coming out of school and stuff. So I kind of worked my way around the different skill sets of digital marketing, website development, graphic design, video, and all that type of stuff. And I've had a couple of really good jobs with good companies who looked after me before that. But there was just this burning desire to want to do something for myself. I loved building stuff. I found myself in a couple of jobs where I was building brands for other people, and then I found myself in a job where I was just building the internal brand. And I just found out that I wanted to do both. I wanted to build my brand that was also building other people's brands, and that was sort of where it came from. So I don't generally have a fitness background to say, like I wasn't a coach. I've never worked in gyms or anything like that. For me, it was just rugby league all the time. Like I loved rugby, kind of what I grew up playing. But I knew a lot of people in the space, so a couple of friends and stuff started a gym locally, and I sort of understood how you apply the services and the skills that I had and how you contextualize them for a fitness person, for a coach, for a personal trainer, for a gym. And it was different to what your standard freelance graphic designer or agency was able to offer. And also the main thing that was missing then was the actual quality and the ability to go out and work with a person or an agency that actually genuinely cared and had the highest quality for a personal trainer, because it was just very clear that there was a big gap for an agency, as I said, an agency or somebody to come in and deliver that quality that you want from, let's say your city agency, like, your London agency that's working with BBC and Coca-Cola and all these people, that quality that you desire. Nobody was doing that cared about personal trainer working in Pure Gym down the road or whatever it may be. And I wanted to try and blend the two together, and it wasn't easy. When it comes to pricing and stuff, like to deliver that quality, you're constantly battling with the price that you charge. And we're just from a small northern town, like we don't charge city prices either, but we provide city quality as it is. So that's sort of where it came from. And then sort of how it then became GraphFit was Liam, who a lot of people, if they follow us, will see Liam around. He's our operations director, and he was a coach at the time and knew him for years. And he kind of came on board as the fit element of that. So it was clear that I could deliver the services when I was on my own at the time that a coach or a gym needed, but I needed, like I said before, more context. I needed to understand the inner workings of a coach and a personal trainer and the stuff that they're dealing with on the gym floor every day. And that's where Liam came in and sort of bridged that gap for me, and we sort of started together, and ever since then it's just been growing from there and bringing the right people on board.
Awesome. And you guys have got like a decent sized team and a couple of dogs too. I
Yeah.
see on your website, I'm a big dog lover. We were chatting about this
Mm.
the other day, and that's awesome to see how big it's become. And the quality is just awesome. Like on your site in the dashboard, there's just really high quality work in there, which I'm excited to get into because I want you to kind of share with us why you think professional looking content really matters if you're trying to build an online fitness brand.
I think it's just honestly, I think it comes down to you sort of if you're a coach and you listen to this and you're a coach on your own or your personal trainer on your own, you don't have a team yet or don't have a desire to have a team. It comes down to personal standards to begin with. For me, quality has to sort of be the blood through everything. Everything has to be of the utmost quality. Don't get me wrong. There's a line that you sort of towing all the time where um, it can be of a quality, and if you go too far you actually start sort of like putting other things at risk in the business where execution time, for example, getting things out there to market, it can sort of swing the other way. But everything for me is just it's just quality, and hopefully that's what people see in our brand, and that's essentially what we want to deliver. And like I said, it comes down to personal standards, and there's a whole trend, and again, a lot of people who are watching or listening to this now will probably either have increased the prices, for example, or want to increase the prices in the future to, maybe lower volume and, sort of that whole swing and roundabout. And you quite simply need to be of a higher quality in your delivery, in your marketing, in your presentation, in the way you deliver absolutely everything that you do. So the quality of branding and the quality of content allows you to add that premium price tag that you essentially want to add to your service. And that's the main thing for me. That's the main thing for me is being able to charge what you're worth, and to be able to charge what you're worth, you've got to show what you're worth, and that's quality. You've got to be quality in everything.
I'm a big believer in that too. When it comes to like if you wanna sell a high priced service and program, then the perception from the outside needs to be that you have a quality service and program. And the only way you're able to do that is through the marketing before someone even decides to work with you, right? And so
Yeah,
if the standard is higher in your content, then the perceived value of
mm.
your program is likely to be high. But even if that's true or not, because perception is reality,
it's
right? It's
it's
the
changed. Yeah,
optics. Yeah.
yeah. Perception's everything. You can control absolutely everything with perception. We've been in situations before where we're relatively big for an agency, a dedicated fitness agency, and we were going to keep growing, but we're sort of the first of its kind. So where we would be considered as big, even though in business scale, wider business scale, we're minute really. But we've been in situations where people think that we're double, triple, quadruple the size that we are, and it's all about perception of the quality. Because when you see something that you consider of high quality, so if it's the end client, if it's a Gen Pop client, whatever it may be, and they're looking for a coaching service or somebody to help them get out the rut that they're in, that quality overshadows everything. It makes them seem like they can deliver more. It makes them seem like you can trust them immediately, because a quality is quite simply a standard that everybody respects. So we've been in that situation before as well, where that quality sort of umbrellas over everything that you do, and essentially packages what you offer up and delivers it in a much easier way.
It's kind of like if you um, are looking to buy a property, if it's like well kept, the garden is
Yeah,
nice, it's got nice like curb appeal.
yeah,
Typically, the owner of that property, if they're selling it, is going to get more for the property versus if like there was loads of weeds everywhere, the paint was old and it looked dirty. It's like curb appeal, isn't it?
yeah,
Content. If you get your content right and the quality right, like the thing that you're selling on the back end can typically go for more
yeah,
because of the curb
yeah.
appeal, so to speak.
Exactly, and that's a really good analogy. Like if you go with that sort of analogy that you just mentioned there, the curb appeal. So let's say your content, your branding is that good curb appeal. So you're looking to buy a house and you see it online on Rightmove and it looks really good. You're probably going to go and want to view it, and you're going to go and
Mhm.
want to view it and find out more about it. But then you walk through
Exactly.
the door and it's an absolute, I don't know if I can swear on this, but it's an absolute shit tip, and nobody's going to buy it. And that is essentially the acquiring of the service. So you're going to inquire, you're going to get leads through the door. But if your service isn't of the same quality on the back end, then they're essentially either not going to sign up or they're not going to stay for very long. So it's a pretty good analogy, I'd say.
Yeah. So it's not just about content. Let's get that clear for everyone listening.
Yeah,
Contents get them through the door, and then delivery is equally as important, which you guys help with. up leveling the delivery. And this is something that I speak to with my clients a lot, is we can't just get people through the door. We need to keep them inside, right?
Yeah.
And the quality of the delivery also needs to match the quality of the content. And it's kind of like how you do one thing is how you do everything typically.
Yeah.
And that should always be increasing in terms of standards. In terms of like how to like create professional looking content that stands out, like how does someone go about that, even if they're not working with an agency like you? What would you say in terms of immediately taking their content from like a 2 or 3 on the scale of 10 to like a 4 or 5? What are some easy
Yeah.
things to like increase the professional looking feel of it?
Well, there's probably two things that come to mind there. I think firstly, which is quite cliche, but it's definitely true. Less is more.
Mm,
Keeping things minimal, because what a really easy way to think about it is, let's say you're creating graphics or you're creating ebooks or whatever it is, like a welcome guide for your clients, for example. If you don't have the design skills to achieve something to the quality that you want to achieve it, and you're not outsourcing it to a designer or whatever, then the easiest way to keep that looking professional is by not overcomplicating it. Keep it
mm,
simple, and the end product will be a lot cleaner. So from a design perspective, that has always got to be number one. Just keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't over-engineer any branding, because it just makes you look like you're trying too hard. Keep it simple. Make sure that everything's got a little bit of something, a little bit of edginess to it, but keep it simple. And then I would say the second thing, probably establish a checklist of non-negotiables that you need to, and you can carry this through not just branding and content creation, but every element of business. If you can establish essentially a blueprint that you will stick by in every single system that you execute in your business, then you won't go far wrong. So for example, if you're applying it to branding and social content, then if you don't have the skills to achieve the quality that you want to achieve, or what you perceive as that quality, an agency quality, for example, then just have 3, 4, 5 bullet points that you stick to in every single piece of content, so you establish that line of consistency throughout. And that, again, you won't go far wrong with that either. So if you're keeping it minimal, you're not over engineering anything, and you have 4 or 5 points that you stick to every single piece of content, then you'll pretty much nail it every time. And these things, for example, like these 4 or 5 points, they could be, so you use a certain font, the font doesn't intrude on images, so it's easy and clear to understand. You use a certain level of imagery. You don't use the typical bog standard stock images. You try and use images of yourself or higher end stock images. You don't put too many crazy patterns in it. It's not too many crazy colors. These are things that you can create in the checklist, just to go, okay, done that, and you know that piece of content will hit each time.
got it. That was awesome. What about like tools? Okay, so if people want to create it, they've got an idea, they want to create some professional looking content more than just an image. They want to maybe add text and stuff. Like, what would you recommend for someone just getting started and wanting to up level their content?
So for somebody, and this will be no secret, no magic tool, but for somebody in the fitness industry that wants to do their own content, obviously Canva is just screams out. As designers, don't get me wrong, I battled for a good few years away from Canva. I did not want to use Canva. I'm sort of what you at this point probably consider like an older school graphic design. I want to use Adobe products, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. I want to use all them products because it gives me complete flexibility in what I want to create. But for somebody that it isn't their primary goal to be a designer, and they're essentially a coach or whatever type of business owner, then Canva just gives you so many good foundations to create clean content, like the templates they have. And also off the back of that as well, if you're a coach listening to this, you'll notice that there's a lot of these done for you assets that are coming up in the industry. So it might be Canva templates. We do it ourselves, like you've used it yourself, Alex,
Hmm.
with the Asset Academy. You can get your hands on real refined fitness templates now, not just the generic stuff that are in Canva. There are really cost effective ways in the industry to use services to get fitness templates, to get recipe books, to sort of alleviate the pressure on having to create this high standard content.
What does like good branding look like to you?
I think I have a little bit of a different perspective on this, to be honest.
I'd love to
I
hear
like
it. Yeah,
I
I'd love to
like
hear your perspective.
I quite like mysterious brands. I
Mm,
like sort of creating something that doesn't necessarily say what it is, if that makes sense. So
mm,
there are so many amazing brands out there that, like, for example, if you was to go to like a milkshake shop, like you can guarantee the font will be like bubbly and it'll make you want to have a milkshake. Like that.
maybe
There's like
pink or
yeah,
white or
pink,
something
and
like,
yeah,
yeah,
it'll have clouds
poppy.
on it, and yeah, some
Hmm.
mad colors, and that's absolutely perfect, and that's a good brand. But for me, like for example with GraphFit, When I set out, I didn't want to, for example, something really simple. I didn't want to create a logo that said GraphFit. I wanted to challenge what other people were doing and create, for example, you see the logo in the background there.
Yeah.
It's a GF that some people might not know is a GF. And I
Yeah,
wanted
it's
to
quite
challenge myself.
mysterious.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to make sure that everything else around that icon was of a high enough standard to know that without saying GraphFit on it, people knew that that was GraphFit.
Mm.
Like Apple, like obviously it's an Apple, so it's kind of a little bit obvious, but it doesn't say Apple anywhere. But you know it's Apple. And there's so many different brands out there, and that's sort of what I like. So I tend to favor the brands that require you to look a little bit deeper into what they mean, because that's when you actually find the gold, and that's where you actually connect with the brand, because it doesn't just say what it is. It makes you intrigued because it's nice and clean, or it's minimal, or it's simple, whatever it is, and then you look into the back end of it and you understand why it's clean and minimal. You understand the ethos behind the brand, and that's where you connect with people and essentially keep people for longer once they're in your business in whatever capacity.
So when like developing a brand, like as a graphic designer yourself and having a team of designers, like how do you go about helping someone develop a brand so that people listening can kind of understand the thought process behind what goes into developing a brand? Because branding sells, right? If you've got a
Yeah.
strong brand and a strong feel to what you do, then people are going to buy it. Like that monster that you just picked
Mhm.
up. You know, that's a strong brand. It's got those like claw
Yeah.
marks through it, and like you
Mhm.
see it and you go, "That's Monster."
Yeah,
That
exactly. Yeah.
they developed a really strong brand. Like how do you start with a blank canvas and then create a brand? How does the brand come about?
So in terms of our process, when we come to work with coaches and gyms who want to develop a brand, the first thing has got to be how well they know their audience, because the more often than not, they'll know themselves pretty well. They'll know what they want to achieve. They know what they deliver to their clients. That's sort of one piece of the puzzle, but they've got to understand who the client is to build something that is going to attract them type of people. And you sort of touch into like little bits of marketing and stuff like that with that really, but obviously we're just talking about the visual side of it. And so that's the first step for us. We need to understand that they understand their audience, so that we can essentially blend together what they want to achieve, who they are, who they're trying to attract. And if you sort of put them puzzle pieces together, then that'll naturally create something visual that represents both sides. It represents the service provider, and it represents the target audience. That may sound sort of like, I don't know, a bit wishy washy, because I'm not saying you have to pick a color that's going to make you feel angry and like that. That's all great stuff, but actually, if you just peel it all back, it's just about understanding people. If you understand who you are, you understand who the people are that you're trying to connect with, you will, and you have a good designer sat in the middle, you will naturally create something that will appeal to both.
Interesting. What are your favorite brands?
Oh god, that's a good question. Well, Monster, obviously, we've got a whole
Yeah.
Monster fridge
Because
behind us.
you drink, but why? Like, why does that brand appeal to you so much? Because this is interesting for me and probably anyone listening, because branding's powerful, right? Branding
Yeah.
sells, and the reason you bought the Monster because you like the brand. What do you like
Mm.
about that brand?
I think it's the heritage of it. I think
Hmm.
it's the just the sheer dedication that you've seen for as long as that you can remember of
Mm.
this brand always being at the top of the game. Like, and I think when you run your own business, I'm sure everyone that's listening to this probably runs their own business, or whatever it may be. You really get to understand how hard it is and how much of a battle it is to stay consistent at the top. Stay consistent in general, but stay consistent at the top. And brands like this, like Monster, have stayed consistent at the top for as long as you can ever remember. So then when
Mhm.
you sort of then start learning how to run your own business and what that requires, then you really start appreciating what that takes to become that. And I really buy into that stuff. Like, I absolutely love it. Um, and on the flip side, I also like when brands rise to the top and don't fall back down. So a perfect example of that would be Brewdog, probably. And there's a lot of things around Brewdog, positive and negative, but they're an example where they've established sort of like I would say a monster level credibility in a fraction of the time. And again, as a business owner, you have to appreciate that. So they're definitely two favorites. And I like brands that has there was, I think we did like a bit of mastermind with another business mentor recently, and he said, which I've always been against, and he said that every good brand has to have a famous owner. And I've always been one that sort of like didn't want to be at the front. I want it to be a culture thing. I want it to be a team thing. And I'll always want that. But it made me think, and I thought of a couple of brands, like you just asked me there, a couple of brands that I really like, and I know who the owner is, I know who the founder is of that brand. They might be in the business, they might be out of the business, I don't know, but you know who that person is, and then when you know who that person is, and you sort of get a feel for how they did their lives and their personal standards and stuff, you then start seeing that in the brand. So one of them will be obviously Gymshark's an obvious one. Who Ben Francis is, what he stands for, the qualities, and you start appreciating them qualities and appreciate that anyone that you come across from that brand outside of that has them same qualities, or else they wouldn't be there. So they're a few examples. It's nothing special. They're everyday household brands, but they probably stand out to me the most.
So you've got like a decent sized team, right? You've got Liam, Tom, Jason, Sam, Joe. You've got the dogs. I don't know if they do anything. Our dog doesn't
Look after us.
doesn't pull her weight. She just gives us cuddles, and that's about it. Good for morale. So
Yeah,
you've got a solid team. You're working with a lot of clients. You're helping people in the fitness space, coaches specifically. Like, what trends are you seeing in content, in marketing right now? Like, what trends are you seeing? What is emerging? What's hot? What's going on right now?
So I would say there's the two sides to that. I guess I'll give one for each because I don't want to kind of go on too much. Firstly, in terms of social media trends, obviously Reels have been massive. The way we deliver our service is all retainer based. So we have something called Unlimited, but essentially all them services that you list at the start, we do all that and wrap it all into one monthly fee, and that's it. It's really simple. So we essentially our coaches come to us with any trend and go, right, I want to start doing this, and we do it for them. So we've seen a huge spike in Reels. You've then sort of seen it flatline a little bit because I think a lot of coaches expected to just be able to put these Reels out with some subtitles on, and they're going to bang, and they're going to become famous and get loads of clients. And actually, it was a lot harder than that. So then you've seen it flatline a little bit. We've seen, and we did it ourselves, sort of played around with different types of subtitles, different types of, what was showing in the first 3-4 seconds of the reel. And then we've seen a decline in that now. So we've seen people have invested time and money into achieving these reels, creating these reels, and then they've not got the return from it. Probably should have held on for a little bit longer, because you will eventually, but they've then dropped off, and now they're looking for the next big thing on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. I know you're quite big on Facebook as well, which is quite, I'd say, unheard of at this point in the industry. I think a lot of people put too much time into Instagram and not enough into Facebook. That's probably another topic, but I think that's definitely one of them. And then another thing with that is just trying to repurpose content as much as possible. So we have a few blueprints internally that we use to get the most out of one piece of content. For example, this is something that Gary Vee's been talking about for 25 years or something like. But the idea of, for example, of you recording or a coach recording a 10-minute video, nothing special, front camera on the laptop, phone, whatever it may be, 10-minute video, and being able to essentially create, like 10, 15, 20 pieces of content out of that. So out of a 10-minute video, it could be a 10-minute podcast. It could, if you recorded it, it could go on Spotify, Apple, it could go on YouTube as well. You've then got reels. You could probably, out of a 10-minute video, you could probably get at least 8 decent reels out of it. You've got 8 pieces of content for socials. You've also got the long form video that you can post on Instagram and Facebook as well. You can create a lot of content out of that. And I think we work with a lot of high-end coaches who really just need to make the most out of what they've got. Some of them have got small teams, some of them haven't got teams at all, and they quite frankly just need to make the most of the time, and that's the best way to do that. So I'd say they're the 2 biggest things that stand out, really.
Awesome. Just to piggyback on the reels thing, I've noticed that there's been like a little bit of a trend down. Still though, for what you put in, you get a lot back. You can still get thousands and thousands and thousands of views. What I'm noticing right now for me though is Facebook Reels crush Instagram Reels. And then what I'm noticing beyond that is YouTube Shorts crushing both. So YouTube Shorts right now are mega. Like even without a following on YouTube, you can get 1,000 impressions and views on a short, which is crazy. And it's a great way to access people. So I think like short form content is still like there.
Definitely.
That's the wrong word to say. I shouldn't say it's still there. It's actually gathering more momentum. It's just the organic reach is now being proportioned out to
Yeah.
all the people who are using it, because there's not a limited amount of people that are creating that content now. There's a lot more people because it's hot. But I
Yeah.
think like a lot of the platforms are optimizing for short form
Hmm.
content, because they're following TikTok, who's like killing the game
Yeah.
right now and stealing all the attention. And so YouTube are like, I'm
Yeah.
not having that. Shorts,
Shorts.
Facebook
Yeah.
Reels, they're going Reels, and now they're
Mhm.
optimizing the profile and the feed for Reels,
For
and the
real. Yeah.
same on Instagram, right? So like Reels is very much where it's at. I definitely agree, on the short form video
Yeah.
content, especially with attention spans as well declining.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of time to hook someone in. Most people won't watch this 25-minute long thing to the end because they don't have the attention for it.
Yeah.
Sorry to
And
say,
that's
anyone that's listening. Whoever's
it's
listening
facts.
now, then well done.
Yeah, don't go.
Yeah.
Stay. But I think that there's probably a little nugget in that as well, what you just mentioned there, because you you will have learned that if you post a lot of content and you try different content, you will have learned that we actually have absolutely no control over what Instagram and Facebook want to do with our content. You can, there's certain things that you can do to give yourself the best chances, but if they change something, they're changing something. They're not listening to me, So you're always going to see peaks and troughs in how much Instagram want to push things or how much engagement you're going to get from your audience. But then within that, if anyone can take a lesson away from that, it's just to utilize different audiences and different platforms. Because you would look at, let's say somebody has really hammered reels on Instagram, and all of a sudden the views have gone down, then they're fucked basically, like, because that's the only, they're counting, putting all eggs in one basket, as they say. You're
Yeah.
counting on them Instagram reels. Whereas if you can, with an Instagram reel, you can use that exact same content, like you said, for Facebook reels, TikTok, and now YouTube shorts. So
Yeah.
if
That's what
you
we do.
use that same content, or repurpose it and maybe change it a little bit, might be the way you hook them in or whatever, and apply that same content on all the platforms. And if there's a dip in one of the platforms, it's not really that much of a big deal, because you should be utilizing all the other platforms anyway.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're just counting on one platform, then yeah, obviously you're gonna be at a disadvantage if it dips. But if you tie all the audiences across all platforms, then you probably won't notice it as much.
Yeah, totally agree with you, man. We'll have to get Liam on to maybe do another talk, maybe a different direction, because
Yeah,
you've got
definitely.
a very good team of people there who are very competent at what they do, and loads of value to share. Guys, if you got value from this, let us know in the comments. Hit the like button if you got something of value from this. Callum, appreciate you coming on. And for anyone that's listening, if you want to check out more of their work and what they do, you can head over to GraphFit.com. We'll put the link somewhere. We tried to do it before we went live, but we
Yeah,
got blocked. So we'll put it somewhere so that people can find it. I've used their stuff. It's quality stuff. It's a great way to maybe outsource your content if you're finding it difficult to do it yourself. And they offer a ton of services too. So definitely check those guys out. Callum, it was a pleasure. Great to have you on, man.
appreciate it, mate. And anyone that's listening, if you do have any questions or want to go into a deeper bit of detail on anything that we covered, just drop us a message on Instagram, and we won't sell to you, I promise. We'll just have a conversation. Like we like having conversations every day. So if anyone's got any questions, let us know, and myself or Liam or any of the team will be happy to help.